Let me ask you something. If the market dropped 20% tomorrow, would your retirement plan still work exactly as it's been designed? Or would you immediately start making some adjustments, cutting back, wondering if you'd made a mistake somewhere? Because here's what I've learned working with retirees for almost 4 decades. Most people don't actually have a retirement plan, they have a portfolio. And today, we're going to talk about the difference. So, welcome to our show today, Unlock Your Retirement. I'm Bruce Smith. I'm the founder of WealthKare. And this is where elite wealth planning begins, where traditional planning ends.
I like that. And Bruce, it sounds like a good one. I'm Tony Shore, your co-host, just an FYI to our listeners and viewers out there. And it's great to be here with you again, Bruce. Thanks for having me on your show once again. And I feel like that opening question you just presented us with, it's a great challenge. Would my plan work if the market dropped 20% tomorrow? And the way the market's been going, it wouldn't surprise me in the least if it dropped 20% tomorrow. But no one has a crystal ball. It might go up a few ticks or down a few ticks, or it might drop 20 in the next few days. We don't know, but you need to have a plan in place. And I think that's kind of where we're at today. And that question's going to stick with people, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a plan is not the same as having a portfolio. Your portfolio is where you've done a lot of things right. That's how you amassed wealth. That's how you built your nest egg. That's how you have got to the point you're at where you said, "Okay, I'm going to be retired and I'm going to be relying on this nest egg." I mean, some interesting side notes on the portfolio is, as you were building it, and most people they don't dig into this because they just look at the very basics. Okay, I took a risk questionnaire and they said I should be 60/40, 70/30, 80/20, whatever the ratio of stocks to bonds should be. And at the end of the day, the markets will reward me and I'll have what I need. That's all fine and dandy, but here's some things that were going on while you were building that wealth. The portfolio made sense. It was the right way to manage your money before you retired because you're putting money in all the time. For example, in your 401k, your employer was putting money in. And if the market took a bath, if it dropped, okay, so your portfolio value dropped, but you're still putting that money in. So you're automatically buying at depressed prices. Your employer is automatically buying investments at depressed prices for your 401k, for that IRA. So all of these things were benefiting you, which you're buying on the dip, as they say. And so your portfolio is recovering and you got some really good deals along the way. And that's if you only have a portfolio. And for most people, that never changes throughout their entire lifetime. They build a lifetime building wealth. They start taking retirement income from that portfolio. They expect the portfolio to get them through retirement and till they're done, and then any residue left over goes to their spouse or their kids. But that's all that they're doing. It's a one-legged stool or a unicycle. I don't know about you. I actually one time tried to ride a unicycle. That was the fastest 5 seconds of my life, and both my knees were scraped up pretty well. So we're not going to do that. You want more stability. But
Yeah, it's like me on
yeah,
a snowboard. I tried snowboarding once, and it lasted a lot less than 5 seconds. It's just whoosh right out from under me. I tried surfing once in California, whoosh right out from under me, and I tried a unicycle once, whoosh right out from under me. So I don't do any of those three things anymore, and I actually need a four-legged stool. I know financial advisors like to talk about a three-legged stool. I'm like, I'm a big guy. I'm a big guy. Let's get
give me
four
four.
legs on that
Let's
stool.
get four legs. Yep.
Let's get some pillars under that stool. And you have those, the pillars. But I think we're talking about helping people close the gap between what they think they have and what they actually need. And that gap is probably bigger than most people expect, right?
Well, I mean, you say about what you need. We why do we have a retirement plan? What's the purpose of the plan? And this is something recently I was at a meeting with advisors, and the question came up, and it was actually a term I had never heard, and they said it's called goal awareness, and I'm like, okay, what's goal awareness? It sounds like a big bunch of $50 words when a 25-cent word will do. And they said, well, what is the actual goal? What is the goal of a financial decision that you're making? And I'm like, "Oh, okay." It seemed really nebulous to me. So they asked me, they said, what goal do you plan for your clients? I said, the goal we plan for is very simple, is how do I get the maximum lifetime value out of my accumulated retirement wealth. I have my nest egg. My portfolio got me here. I did
Yeah,
everything right. Everything seems pretty good. I like the
sure.
numbers. So but I want to I want to live a great life in retirement. I want my spouse to live a great life in retirement. Whoever survives, we want to have a good life in retirement. And I want to know that the money I work so hard for will hand off to our kids, very, very efficiently and not give it to Uncle Sam. And so altogether, that comes under one unified goal, and that is, how do I get the maximum benefits out of my accumulated wealth for myself, my spouse, and my family? And when you look at things that way, that becomes the game changer. You're no longer saying, the normal goals are, well, what rate of return do you want on your portfolio? How much risk do you want to take in your portfolio? What kind of companies do you and don't you want in your portfolio? This is so much bigger than this. And when you have that kind of a goal, you've got to have a retirement plan that has the value controls built into it. And there are four key value controls. You have to optimize your risk management, you've got to optimize your taxes, you got to optimize your income strategy, and you've got to have an optimized legacy plan for what you hand off to your family. And here's the dirty little secret: if you don't have any of those positions in the optimized position, you don't have a strategy specifically built for your situation, you can never achieve that goal. You're going to come up short because you're missing opportunities and you're missing value that will be forfeited.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's really, really tough. And you don't want to miss these things. And that is why, once again, people need to work with a trusted financial services professional. But there are a lot of people out there who call themselves that or call themselves financial planners. And especially if you're looking for elite wealth care, which is what you provide, elite wealth planning. And you really, have some serious money to protect, like from tax problems, from other issues, and you want to get a solid plan in place. That's what you offer, isn't it? And that's all part of this, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's about value. At the end of the day, it's about value. And how do you get the maximum value out of your retirement? You look at the things that you can control or can be controlled, can be planned for. And most people have their taxes are out of control. Their income is out of control. Their legacy planning, yeah, they had an attorney do a will or a power of attorney or a medical directive or something. They did paperwork. They generated forms and you signed them, got them notarized, got them witnessed, whatever. And they're sitting in a folder somewhere. That has nothing to do in most cases with the amount of net value that's going to go to your heirs. So if you don't have control, you don't have anything in place to control these elements that can be very costly if you don't manage them, then you lose. You're going to have less opportunity, less value available to live the lifestyle you want. And nobody wants that. People want to have all the options possible, as many trips to Disney as possible with the kids and the grandkids. And believe me, Disney is built to take your money. They do a good job of it. So,
Yeah.
so you want the maximum lifestyle options, you got to have control.
Well, yeah, you do. And yeah, you want to take the grandkids to Disney. My mother-in-law took, she has three kids, my wife, her sister, and her brother, and they all have families. We all have kids, at least two. One of them has three. Well, we have three. What am I talking about? It's us. My wife and I have three, and the other have two. So she took all the family, all the kids, all the grandkids, and she took all the significant others. So there was about, I want to say 11 or 12 of us to
You didn't
Disney
call
World.
me. I would have went.
To Disney World. You weren't yet in Florida. You weren't yet spending some time down there, but we would have called you. You could have made the trip from Pennsylvania, right? Right.
Yeah.
But
I
she
like
took
Disney. I
everyone.
like Disney. I don't like the price tag of Disney, but
She,
I like Disney.
yeah. Oh, I loved Disney World, but we stayed at a really nice Airbnb not far from the parks. We went to Disney World, the different parks, and we were down there about 5 days. I don't even want to tell you
Oh,
the
man.
dollar amount she spent total, because airline tickets.
Oh,
Now,
my.
some of the food, we all split costs of food. But as
Right.
far as Disney tickets, airline tickets, and place to stay, she covered all of that for everyone for 5 days at Disney World. And that was astronomical. I would need to take out I would probably be on the phone to you, Bruce. Bruce, I'm gonna need a personal loan from you. Uh, and by personal loan, I mean you're just gonna give me $50,000.
It was 5 figures, right?
Yes. Oh,
It was definitely oh, yeah. No,
yeah,
he noticed, ladies and gentlemen, he didn't even blame. I mean, I know it's radio, if you see us on the
yeah.
podcast or see us on our
Oh,
YouTube channel,
it
you can see
was
his face.
it
But
was
I mean,
5 figures.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fine,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's 5 figures for 5 days, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Disney experience, you know?
It is. I'll tell you what, it's a once in a I mean, that was a fantastic experience for the kids and the for her grandchildren. Well, she was
Yep.
still able to she went with. See, that's
Yes.
the key. She's 90 now and couldn't do that again, right? But a few years back, she did it while she was still able. And so, another little lesson that I know, and you've said this before too, um, have a retirement plan, not just a portfolio, but make it include doing things while you're still able, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You've gotta
you can't take it with you. And if you leave it to them after you're gone, especially if they're not working with you and your team at WealthKare, you're probably going to leave a tax burden to your grandkids. Do it now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny you mentioned you can't take it with you. We actually, had, morticians who became clients of ours, and I had this really crazy idea one day because a gentleman who had gone to work, he had left PennDOT, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and decided to go to work for another company, and he had access to something kind of unique, so, he was driving for Brinks. And so I got a hold of the mortician client. I said, "Is there any possibility we could rent the 2 of you in a suit and your hearse? And I want it in a graveyard, and I want the Brinks truck parked right behind it." And he said he could get the Brinks truck and do it. I'm like, "Oh, okay." And we were gonna make this poster, "Can you take it with you?" We thought that'd been a really great image. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. You
um,
can't. Yeah. Yeah. I've never seen the old line, like you say, I've never seen a hearse pulling a U-Haul.
yeah.
And I've never seen a Brinks truck backed up to a funeral plot. So,
Well,
uh,
you say about, your hearses and U-Hauls. I have seen hearses pulling U-Hauls because the problem is what happens to old hearses? Somebody buys them.
well, yeah, that's true. Oh, well,
I've seen them
sure.
with Harley trailers behind them, I've
Yeah,
seen all kinds,
yeah.
but
I've
I've
seen them
seen them too with
repainted.
U-Hauls.
My cousin, his whole family, his dad and his brothers are all into fixing up, souping up old cars, restoring cars, and taking them to car shows, right? Well, it was in the 80s, and my cousin bought an old hearse and refurbished it into the Ghostbusters. Now,
Oh my
that was
goodness.
supposed to have been an ambulance, but there was a hearse
Right.
made out of the same model car as
Oh, that's
that,
cool.
and he
Oh, that's
reconverted it to look like the Ghostbusters car, painted it white, had to primer the heck out of it, take off all the black paint because it was
yeah.
black, of course. So he bought an old hearse, and that was funny, but he completely redid it. You couldn't tell it was a hearse. In fact, people assumed it was an ambulance, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
No.
hey, I think this is a great discussion so far, and I know that we're going to get into it. I have a joke for you, though, really quick,
Uh-oh.
Bruce. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Have you heard this one?
No, I have
You
not.
had to have heard this one. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field.
He was Oh my god. Well, I was gonna do that into the mic, but you're exactly correct, yes.
Sad
Well, I mean,
trombone.
I think the Scarecrow is identical to you, just outstanding in your field, sir. You really are.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
so, yeah, that's
Exactly.
definitely good. It's that time of year, it's planting season and we're getting everything in the ground, stuff's starting to grow, and of course, our big metric here in Pennsylvania is, is the corn's got to be knee high by the 4th of July. That's how you know if your cornfield is going to yield
Yep,
right.
knee high by the 4th of July. Oh, I grew up on a farm that grew corn and soybeans in Minnesota,
Yep.
down by
Yep.
the Iowa border, and now it's my dad's farm. He can't farm it, but we lease it out. But
Yep.
yeah, I've heard that one many times, and we've went out there and stood out there and go, oh, yep,
I've always loved
yep.
I always loved raising corn, but I'll tell you,
Yep.
there was about a 2 acre, 2.5 acre corner area that always was reasonably moist, and we used to get this seed corn for sweet corn. It's called Sweetie, and we would get these big ears of super sweet white corn that were just, oh my God, it was just unbelievable.
Yep.
Sweet corn season,
Oh.
sweet corn season, and Kerry Gold Irish butter.
Yep.
And a little salt
Perfect.
and pepper. It's,
That's
summertime
exactly what
times.
we did. Yes, exactly. Yeah, well, my mom's half Irish, so we definitely had the Kerrygold, and I know exactly the white sweet corn. We grew like 3 different varieties of sweet corn and had a huge sweet corn. You call it a garden, but it was pretty big because we
Right.
just took a section of the field that was closer to the house, and my
Yep.
my family, my dad and my mom and I, and then my grandpa, same farm just across the lane. There were 2 houses. So
Yep.
my grandfather grew up on that farm. My dad grew up on that farm, and I grew up on that farm. And it's a heritage farm. It was homesteaded by the Shores. There was nothing there when they homesteaded the farm.
Okay.
So it's been in the family since existence, right? So yeah, we had a big plot for corn. Anyway, we get off topic, Bruce, sometimes,
No.
once in a while, but it's hopefully fun for the listeners, makes it more entertaining, right?
Well, we're human. I mean, the thing is, the way we talk when we talk with you about retirement planning is the same way we talk about sweet corn and farms and scarecrows that are outstanding like Tony Shore. But,
A
I mean,
scarecrow
that's
outstanding in its field.
outstanding in this field. And, that's one thing that we have heard, and we've earned it, and I'm very proud of it because, we are not into financial gibberish. I mean, high level planning is really about being able to convey what you're doing. We want you to understand what's going on with your money, but more importantly, as we ask questions, and it is always enlightening, but it's impressive how people are like, no one has ever asked me that before. Nobody has ever, put the value on the tax planning. Nobody's ever showed me the value of having income guardrails and planning in
Right.
advance to let's have an income raise every 2 years. What we're going through right now. We've had a number of clients have called in that have income guardrail systems built in, and they're like, so, you always said if there was a deep drop in the market that we could be in a position we might have to adjust our income downward because of the loss of principal. And I said, yeah. And I said, but we also put in a lot of wealth preservation, wealth protection strategies built into that portfolio. So the probability of that happening is so extremely small.
Yeah.
And right now we're getting a lot of those calls, and they're
Yeah,
very
but the
thankful.
market would have to go down significantly and sustain that for a while before it would ever get to that point because you've built in
Right.
protections and guardrails, right?
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and I mean, people get selective amnesty when the markets are screaming up and doing well. And let's be honest, the market has been good for a very long time, you know. So, for what's going on now, the volatility we see in the market, people like the idea that we had a plan in advance for this. We don't have to go in and make changes. So we stick to the long-term plan, but that plan has built in wealth protection or preservation instead of saying, well, maybe we need to sell some assets, or even worse, yes, you need income. So every month we are going to sell assets at a depressed price. That good deal you got building that portfolio is now working against you. So very important.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is important. And it just illustrates why you need a plan that has balance, not all your eggs in one basket. You have a lot of great strategies in place to help with this, whether it's principal protected or safe versus where are my growth assets. And you have money that's set for long term, medium term, short term, and are adjusted to each individual's goals and needs. So, and their own time horizons. I mean, there's so much to this people don't think about or understand. And it doesn't have to be that you do a great job of explaining it, but yet to try to go it alone, it's not going to happen.
I can honestly say I don't know. We may have met one or two people, and I'm talking about in my entire career,
Of 40
that
years.
that had all the pieces there. Um, and of course, the ones that always surprised me is when we have like a chief financial officer of a company or a CEO or a CPA that comes in and becomes a client. And the reason being is that if you're trying to extract maximum value, and I tell people, I said, just imagine if you had four dials that were scaled 0 to 10, and you said, okay, what are you doing at this point when it comes to your risk management? Where would you put yourself on a scale of 0 to 10? Where would you put yourself as far as your tax strategy? Where would you put yourself in income? Where would you put yourself in legacy? And as we go through that and score it, we actually have an image we put in our reports now. We show them the retirement value control panel. And we say, so if you don't have if you don't have everything dialed up to 10, then you're leaving money on the table. You're leaving money that you're not going to realize during your retirement. So that's the key element. That's the difference between having a portfolio, which typically has the risk factor, and that's pretty much the end of the road. It doesn't have all the other stuff. Or do you have a truly coordinated plan where all these things are interlaced under one umbrella that says, okay, let's get the maximum value, but let's make sure that they're all working with each other in sync. All the
Yeah.
gears are engaged.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And so, really, it's about plan. We can say it over and over: plan, plan, plan. But it has to be strategic. It has to be smart. And there are so many things, and I call it financial advisor speak when you start throwing out things like sequence of returns or
Standard
arbitrage,
deviation, alphas and
standard deviation,
betas.
or even things you think there are so many different people that have so many different definitions of diversification.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
you admit when you're around other financial advisors, you're throwing out word diversification and earning years versus distribution, accumulation versus distribution. Well, what does that mean? So I'm glad that's why we have this show, is for you to try to explain these things. Not try, you do explain those things, and me to try to ask the right questions to find out what is that really about and how does it apply to me. I mean, that's great. You can talk about sequence of returns all day, but what difference will that make to me? I mean, that's not going to affect my retirement. Oh, it could completely derail your retirement because it's a type of risk, and you need to know why and how to avoid it, right?
Yeah, and to that end, we've created a new resource. So we're announcing it today on the show. We're excited about
Awesome.
it. You mentioned about asking the right questions. So we have a new website for people that basically the 20 most common, most valuable, most important retirement questions that people ask and how we deal with them. And it's called Ask WealthKare, and that's Wealth Kare, WealthKare with a K, askwealthcare.com. And when you go there, you're actually going to see 21 little short, less than 2-minute videos each where we deal with the questions and kind of give you, the problem, the solution, why it makes sense as part of an elite wealth plan. And the opportunity we put out there for people, we make this as easy as possible, is give you the opportunity for a 20-minute retirement wealth strategy session with one of our advisors. So you have no preparation necessary. You don't have to gather a bunch of paperwork. It's not drive down to our office. It's none of that stuff. It's 20 minutes to talk with an elite wealth advisor, and all you have to do is go to askwealthcare.com as you would ask questions to WealthKare. So askwealthcare.com. Feel free to watch one. Feel free to watch all 21 of those videos and glean the information that's there. And then at the bottom of that page, if you find that any of those videos are resonating with you or questions are resonating with you, and you kind of go, yeah, I'd like to know more about that. I think that's important. All you have to do is click the link at the bottom of the page, and it'll take you right to the scheduling queue for our 20-minute complimentary discovery calls. If you want to call in direct, sure, 888-888-5601. Tony's favorite number in the whole wide world, all the eights, lucky eights. But, we're real excited about askwealthcare.com, and we're going to talk about another site as we go forward here today. But We have now launched it. It is live. So ask wealthcare.com the 20 most important retirement questions and our take on it to kind of give you some insight, and or give us a call, 888-888-5601.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, great show so far today. Listeners, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with more of Bruce Smith right here on Unlock Your Retirement. Welcome back to Unlock Your Retirement. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I'm here with our host, the man with the plan, as always, is the one, the only Bruce Smith. Bruce Smith the third, Bruce Smith III, the best of the Bruces, as I like to say.
Oh,
And
geez,
and,
here we
and
go.
there are many. But now a lot of people out there, Bruce, what we've been talking about today, so many people I know think, I say, do you have a retirement plan? Yep, I've got a 401k, or I've got an IRA and a 401k, so I'm set. But they don't have a retirement plan. They have a portfolio, and they don't realize it. And probably they don't know what's in that portfolio specifically. They've never seen a breakdown of specifically what's in it. Most people don't pay that close attention to detail, and they don't know if they're paying any fees, and if so, what they're paying. There's always fees, but do they know them, and how hidden are they? So I think it's really important that you stress that you've been stressing, have a plan, have a retirement income plan and an overall financial plan that includes retirement income and everything else, right?
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, and there's a number of studies out there on this, but less than 1 in 10 pre-retiree and retired Americans today in America have ever even seen a coordinated plan. A plan that not only has the 4 control features of optimizing taxes, risk, income, and legacy values for your family, but has seen that where they're coordinated and working together. Less than 1 in 10. So, and we have this discussion quite often. We talk about retirement income, and I'll ask people, I'll say, so, you tell me that you need 60,000 a year in retirement income, and you're getting Social Security, but if I could wave a magic wand and Social Security would give you one check for the whole year, and I would pull out of your retirement account all the money you need, so I hand you $60,000 and said, okay, I'll see you this time next year. Do you realize how many people will not make it 6 months on that money, even if they told us all they needed was $60,000, because they don't have a plan? They now have 60,000 in their hands, and how they manage it. Some people will run out of money in 3 months or 6 months. Some people will go blow it and be crazy with it. Some people may have 50,000 left over at the end of the 12 months. I mean, it's all over the board what will happen. But the fact is that, if you've got a nest egg, you've got that portfolio, it has a value. And, somebody will tell you, well, use the thumb rule. You can take 4% a year, right? All right, well, I'm going to get Social Security. I need 40 grand a year. I have $1 million, my 401k, 4%. Yeah, that should work. That'll be okay. I'll take 40 grand out every year, and I'll take my 20 grand Social Security, and I'll get my 60 grand, and I'll be golden. I'll be great. And that's fine until the first month you retire, and you told them you needed that 40 grand a year, and that's the rate they gave you. And you go, wait a minute, I got shorted. I got my check and I got shorted. What's going on here? It's 20% less than what you told me it was going to be. Oh, we withheld taxes. You go, well, wait a minute. And now all of a sudden that easy peasy, I had a portfolio and I've got a solution and I'm all golden. Now it's just turned into a nightmare because you're like, what happened? So planning is saying what happens and knowing it in advance. Let's
Yeah.
plan in advance for that 20% market drop. Let's plan in advance for the tax rates to go up. Let's plan in advance for, what is that lifetime tax bill going to be? Can we reduce it and keep more of our money? Let's plan in advance for the income, not just to have a stable income, but to have an income increase every 2 years. And that's one thing that's very unique in the plans we do for WealthKare, because we know that inflation is real. We know that things cost more. We know that while you're able to physically and mentally, you're going to want to do a few extra things each year. So let's plan for that in advance. And we suggest a lot of things in planning that people are like, I never even considered that. I never thought about that. Bruce, what a great idea. Thank you for looking out in advance for us and helping us to understand things we never even thought about, but we see how they will benefit us. And if you can say that you have all that in your planning, great. How do you know if you have all of that planning? You make the phone call. And we do a 20-minute retirement value discovery call with you. There are 4 questions that we're going to ask you. We may even send you an email before the appointment and say, complete these 4 questions. Guess what? There's 4 questions, and each one has an A, B, C, or D answer. That's it. It's going to take you 3 minutes tops to answer these 4 questions. And if you do that, we're actually able to score it and give you a retirement value control panel report. So you can see, are you hitting all the marks? Is your current plan dealing with all of these things at maximum efficiency and truly optimized? Or are there opportunities that you're not currently taking advantage of or haven't been offered to you that we would like to help you to participate in and realize the additional value from those? Because at WealthKare, we always say, our job is to unlock massive additional value for our clientele. That's the game. That's what we do. And the way you find out is start with the 20-minute discovery call. You answer 4 simple questions. And based on our experience, our knowledge, everything we have in that call, we're going to be able to ascertain, does it sound like you're hitting all the marks, or does it seem like there's opportunities there you're not taking advantage of?
Right.
If it makes sense, then we may invite you in and say, let's do a complimentary retirement plan. But let's find out if it even makes sense. We don't want you to drive to our office, bring us a whole bunch of paperwork and everything, and we find out that there is no opportunity, or that possibly there's just not even a good fit. And we find that from time to time. We just had a case recently. The people were working with an advisor at a bank, and they had their perception of what they had. And interestingly, they would get a statement every month for their account from the bank, but there were other statements that were coming. And if it didn't say the bank's name on it, they threw it in the trash. So as we're building out the planning for them, we said, well, this, you're looking at this from a portfolio perspective. You're looking at the number at the bottom of the statement. How much money do I have? Is it going up or is it going down? And then you go on about your life. And that's what a lot of people do.
Yep.
I said, but what's the interest rate on this thing that's inside of here? What's the charges? What are the penalties? What are the fees? What are the things that go in here? What's the tax treatment on it? Is it clear? And we're asking all these questions. They're going, well, how would I know that? And I said, you would know it because you would have got this other statement in the mail once a year. And they're going, oh, we just throw them away. And it was so eye-opening. But at the end of the day, there was very little that we could do with them because of how the bank had them locked down in so many things that really weren't achieving what their goals were. And it also, they weren't liquid in that they could do things with them and move laterally or move vertically to improve their situation. So it's not always a good fit. We can't help everybody, but if you're the person out there and you're looking to get that maximum value from your accumulated wealth, and you realize that a portfolio alone, rate of return alone, risk alone is not going to get you there, but you want to achieve that, then pick up the phone and give us a call, 888-888-5601. Or now, so the other website I mentioned earlier is you can go to wealthkare.com, wealthkare with a K.com. And there we've got 20 videos that are informative and basically give you just a quick, less than 2 minutes, and I do mean that when I say it, less than 2-minute snapshot of, what's the big picture? What's the big benefit of working with WealthKare? Who are the people that are a good fit with WealthKare? Who are the people that don't fit with WealthKare? And we talk about a variety of different things. I'm actually the one in the video talking to you. So,
yeah,
you look at it and if anything there resonates with you, you go, hey, this sounds different. This sounds like there might be value I'm not realizing. This sounds like a smarter approach to risk management or tax management or income or legacy planning. If any of those things resonate, you go to the bottom of the page, you click and schedule your 20-minute retirement value discovery call, period. We make it very simple, low hurdle. And for that call, you need to prepare nothing other than us probably sending you this email with 4 questions that are A, B, C, or D answer. It's going to take less than 3 minutes as preparation for the call, because that's going to give us insight as the starting point for that call of, where are you standing currently. And if you're hitting all the marks and everything, we're just going to verify that through the discussion. If we see an area where there's a hole or an opportunity for you to increase the lifetime value from your accumulated wealth, then we want to talk about that. And again, at the end of the day, it's going to be us looking at you and you looking at us and saying, is there an opportunity here that could be realized? And that's about as low key and as very simple as it gets. But we've gone past so many other firms that are out there on the radio saying, hey, come on in for an appointment. Hey, bring all your stuff. Hey, go play in our field where we have a home field advantage in that boardroom or conference room or office. And we're saying, look, let's start with the most valuable 20 minutes you may spend in your retirement. Let's have a simple 20-minute conversation. So you can go to whywealthcare.com, and we believe give you the answer of why it makes sense to work with a firm, an elite wealth management firm like ours, or go to askwealthcare.com and look at the ideas and thoughts that we have on the 20 probably most important financial questions that are asked by people who are retired or nearing retirement. So whywealthcare.com or askwealthcare.com, or call us at 888-888-5601.
All right. And I want to reiterate that new site with these great new videos that you've done, Bruce. Go to whywealthcare.com. If listeners, if you take anything else away, there's such great information there. And that's why spelled out. So WHY, wealth, and care spelled with a K. So why, WHY, wealth, and KARE, whywealthcare.com, and that's care with a K. Go there, watch Bruce's videos. Bruce, not only is he's the brains of the operation, you'll learn that quickly, but the eye candy as well. I've watched some of the videos. They're fantastic. So I'm glad you put this site up, whywealthcare.com. Now, we're talking about, we know a lot of the problems out there that markets, have strong runs. People's statements look good. You said on the surface, everything seems fine. And then over the last 3 years, they're like, my number's up. I'm doing great. But now all of a sudden we've had a down quarter this year. And so some people then are starting to panic. So we need to talk about solutions, right? And I know you've alluded to some, and that's why you've started this site. But you have to have solutions. And where do you begin? Usually, and you've said it, I think, on even our last show or the show before, isn't looking at risk where you start with solutions?
Well, it's a lot of the financial industry likes to kind of the unwritten code of the financial industry is talk to somebody, find something that'll disturb them, and keep rubbing that hot button, keep hitting
Oh,
that hot
geez.
button,
Yeah.
whatever it is. We don't have a predestined destination. So, as we talk to you, and that's why we have the very simple 4 questions for our 20-minute discovery call, is that, and really it's asking you before we ever have our discussion, it's asking you to do a very simple, easy self-assessment of, in the area of risk. They ask you a question and it's like, do you feel that you're here, 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 or here? In the area of income planning, do you feel you're here, 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 or here? So you have 4 choices for each of the 4 things, each of the 4 control items. So if risk management is unique because we follow what Warren Buffett has said, and I think it's great wisdom from the Oracle of Omaha, and that is that, he said, looking at a portfolio and looking at returns are fair and equitable factors to look at. He said, but a better guideline is to have a portfolio that has greater upside potential than downside potential.
Yeah.
And he said, if you can do that, then that will help you increase your returns almost perfectly. His words, not ours. So what Buffett is saying is, don't just look at having a portfolio and having the opportunity to go up and go down based on the markets or based on a particular holding or what have you. But what are you doing to protect and preserve that wealth? What are you doing to know in advance And that's the key. As we're going through this market decline right now, a number of our clients have a majority, over 50% of their portfolio, in positions that are specifically built to not have downside market performance, to protect them or preserve their wealth from downside markets or significant downside markets. So if you eliminate that part of it and you did it for greater than 50% of your portfolio, then automatically you're doing exactly what Warren Buffett said. And that is, you now have a portfolio with more upside potential than downside potential.
Yeah, that's the
So
key right
that-
there. Like you
that's
always said, Tony, what's the first rule? Don't lose money. What's the second rule? Don't lose money. Those are Warren Buffett's two rules. And that protection, that downside protection is huge. And there are a number of strategies and tools you can utilize to do that depending on the person's situation. I know there's buffered portfolios. You can have a portfolio that's buffered and offers downside protection. And there are other tools. So make sure you're doing that, but you also need growth. You need a long-term bucket. You have to have that, be taking advantage of that compounding interest. So if you get somebody who's just trying to get you into one thing or the other, that says, oh, you can't have any money in the stock market, that's all at risk, you're gonna lose. Or if you have somebody that says you've got to put all your money in these stocks, we'll make sure it's diversified, and they want to put all your money in the stock market. Well, the person that wants to put all your money in the stock market is probably a stockbroker or a broker, and that's how he makes his living. If the person just wants to sell you an insurance product and they say put everything into that, that's probably how they make their living. You need to find a true financial professional who's a fiduciary. And I'm not going to name names, Bruce Smith, but I know a guy and that could help you out there. And I think that's really important for people to understand, isn't it?
Yeah, and you have to be very careful with the fiduciary moniker.
Sure.
It was very important when it first came out, but now there are people
It's
that wear two
overused.
hats. Well, they wear two hats. It's like, if
Sure.
I'm sitting as a fiduciary, and then
Sure.
if I change my position in my seat, now I'm a broker, or I'm whatever. It's very confusing. So and the bellwether is this: it's you as the client. I mean, we are a fiduciary firm. We were a fiduciary whenever nobody else was, and it was stylish. I was one of the first 25 people in the country to take the investment advisor exam whenever they
Wow.
created it this year. Yeah, I'm that old, but the thing is, the fiduciary's job is to always put your interest ahead of their own. Bottom line. So you come first. That's great. But let's say for example, you had a car dealer who was a fiduciary, and all they sold was one of those little smart cars. All they have is a lot full of smart cars, and they say, "I'm always here, for your best interest." But I got news for you. If you're a big guy and you got 3 kids, that smart car or 3 smart cars is probably not going to get the job done. So even though they're acting in your best interest, you've got to say, what is their availability? What is their exposure? What is their universe by which to create solutions for me? At WealthKare, we start with a clean sheet of paper. We have no allegiances or alliances to any financial company or product. And once we understand your situation, we say, okay, how can we optimize in the area of risk and income and taxes and legacy, but and go out and find custom fit solutions for you. And that's something that, as we talk about, for example, portfolio x-rays and stress testing, and we look at it and we go, okay, have you considered doing this? And there's so many times we see the deer in the headlights look like, what are you talking about? Nobody ever told me that existed. Nobody ever explained that to me. Where do you get that at? How long have you used things like that? And I worked with very wealthy people whenever I was vice chairman of Investors Capital, and I saw what they did to protect their money, to insulate themselves from market downturns. And believe me, wealthy people do exactly as Warren Buffett said. First rule, don't lose money. Second rule, CE rule number 1. And you would think they have so much money, they would definitely take more risk. They take less risk than you do. So that's the name of the game, and you can learn a lot about that if you visit us at whywealthcare.com. It's the big question. Why would I want to reach out to these guys? You'll get those answers if you visit whywealthkare.com, wealthkare.com. we put that out there because clients have said, I have friends that I'd like to introduce to you. How can I best do that? And I said, well, hey, we're coming out with a new solution, and they can watch the videos as you can and make your own decision. Hey, does this make sense what these people are saying? Is this something I would like to know more about? And I really don't want to commit to an appointment. I don't want to drag all my stuff in there. Let's start with the conversation, and that's the opportunity that we put out there to you. So visit whywealthcare.com. If you have questions, go to askwealthcare.com or give us a call, 888-888-5601. We love what we do, but what you hear on the radio is exactly what you're going to get on those calls. It's exactly what you're going to get in person.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I just want to circle back once really quick, Bruce, to the risk aspect. And I know I hear this phrase, what is your risk tolerance? Is that something that you try to find out early on when you're working with somebody?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you probably have a questionnaire or something they fill out so you can help determine, okay, what's this person's risk tolerance, right?
We actually have it online. You can do it from your phone, your iPad, your computer. And we do, when we do it, we send it out. If you're married, we send it out, one to you and one to your spouse, because they're almost never identical. And for a lot of situations, whenever we go over that data, I can't tell you the number of times I've heard, well, I had no idea. I didn't know you were very worried about risk, or I didn't know you were that much of a gambler, or whatever it might be.
Sure.
So, so we do that, and then it'll blend them together and give us a number. But then we also X-ray whatever you're doing now, and we compare, what is the risk factor of what you have? What is the risk factor that you desire? And, we just did one, which we don't see this very often. They were actually too conservative. I mean, they had accounts that were 2%, 3% fixed rates, low fixed rates, and they were stuck in them. And they were reasonable risk takers. And we're
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, you actually need to elevate the opportunity. And we're still working on a couple ideas there, but there's some limited choices. Again, we can't help everybody, but but no matter what, they have the insight. They were able to see what the deal is with their risk level, of what the portfolio really is, because it's just portfolio, not really a retirement plan, and what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge, Bruce. And I just, you and I mean, we're friends. We talk offline over the weekend. We're constantly texting each other. You get really excited, as you should. And I'm just amazed at the things that you do and the hoops you're jumping through to try to really be cutting edge on how you're able to help your clients and the people you meet with and the people in this community. You really do due diligence in researching in technology to say, okay, how are we going to save these people even more money? How can we really come up with a plan so they can it's the SWAN plan, SWAN plan, sleep well at night is what that stands for. And that's what we all want. They say every survey shows what's the number one fear retirees have. It's over death is running out of money. It's running out of money is number one. Death comes somewhere down the line, like 2 or 3, and usually it's death, or usually it's running out of money, then something to do with family, and then death. And that's what they're afraid of. That's what we're all afraid of, is no one wants to run out of money, obviously. But for retirees, for them, that's always front of mind over anything else in the world. You want to remove that. That's no way to live. I mean, a retirement isn't the end. It's the beginning. It's a new beginning for most people. Most people now, how much time do you see people spending in retirement? 20, 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's and the thing is that, people, if you don't have a plan, you're always in wonder. You're kind of like, why? It's I always
at least at the back of the mind, if not the front of the mind. It's always back there, just bothering you, right?
Yeah, I swear I want to find that clip of Steve Martin, and I love it when he says, what's a wish sandwich? A wish sandwich is when you have 2 slices of bread and you, I wish you had some meat. Oh, that was the Blues Brothers. Bow, bow,
Yeah,
bow.
Blues Brothers. Yeah.
And that's, I have a
Dan
portfolio.
Aykroyd, I think, or Belushi. Yeah.
Yeah, and what you either do is you either run out of money because you spend it too fast, or you have too much left over and you didn't do things lifestyle-wise you wanted to. That's the one thing that we absolutely love. I think it's the best thing that we do with our clients, and we have this discussion all the time, is we go over their accounts on a yearly basis with them, and we said, "Okay, here's what we did well, here's how this performed, and, so this year, we'd like you to spend this extra amount of money over your regular income." And they're kind of like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Look," I said, "here's the projections. Here's the strong projection, middle projection, weak projection. Even at the weak projection, you guys have an excess. So you have this money. Where's that dream trip? We're not talking Disney. Where do you want to go?" And they're like, "How about Tuscany? Let's go do it."
Nice.
And I mean, I have people that have gone to Australia. I've had people that have gone to Thailand. I have people that have gone to Tuscany. I have one guy that did a cruise to Antarctica, which I think is cool. Monica would not go for that. But it's these life experiences, because one thing you can never buy is memories. You've got to create them, and it costs money to create them. And we liberate money for that purpose. And people are so appreciative. They're like, I didn't have a plan to liberate my money other than saying I needed this amount to pay my bills, and they love that. So again, what's the difference between a portfolio and a retirement plan? It's things like that. It's such a broader spectrum. It's so much more illuminating. It's so much more beneficial, and people really appreciate that. And we put that opportunity out there for people that there's a good fit for working with WealthKare, and that's why visit us at whywealthcare.com.
All right. Well, and I know that's why you did the show today, is because there are so many people, and I know them, and my wife and I used to be part of this thinking. That's the thinking we had, is like, yeah, we have a retirement. We've been putting into a 401k for years. That's our retirement plan, is that 401k. That is not a retirement plan. That doesn't deal with inflation, healthcare, taxes, tax planning in the future. That has no way of knowing when can we pull that money out, how long is it going to last, leaving it all in the market. We pull it out during a down year like 2022. That's not going to work, right? I mean, this is tough, isn't it?
Yeah. I was on submarines, and we'd go underwater for 90 days at a time. And my wife, I was in Scotland. That's where the boat was. And my wife would send me potato chips, special. We love our potato chips in Pennsylvania, Hartley's, ladies and gentlemen, or Middlesworth. It depends on what the patrol was. But I would take that, and she would send me a box of baggies, and I would count the chips, and I would put them in bags, and I would say, "Okay, that's my ration for this week or for every 5 days or whatever," and make it last. And
Yes.
that's, if somebody cashed in their retirement tomorrow and that pile of cash was sitting on their kitchen table or dining room table, and I said, "This money has to last you your lifetime," how many people would successfully make it through retirement without running out of money? Almost nobody.
Well, if
You
it's
know?
cash sitting on my table, I've got news for you. I know my willpower, and it would be gone. That's the general fund. I would be, well, I know it has to last, but I'll just this once buy a state of the art stereo. Give me 10 grand or 20 grand. And
Yeah,
then, okay, I need this. Yeah. I mean, no, that's not going to work. In fact, even if it's not in cash sitting on your table, even if it's in your checking account, that's the
yeah,
general fund for most people.
yeah,
I've said this before on the show. If it hits my checking account and stays there more than a day and doesn't get transferred out to where it needs to be, it gets spent.
it's fair
It's the old,
game. It's fair game.
and it's gone. Poof.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
hey, we got to wrap it up. We're out of time. One more time, let people know about that wonderful website that you now have, where they can go watch these videos, get more information, and schedule a consultation.
So it's why WealthKare, spell out the word why, WHY, WealthKare with a K, Wealth Kare, whywealthcare.com, to learn more about us and what we do and how we do it. And all these videos are less than 2 minutes. You go there and say, "Hey, I got 3 minutes. I'll watch one of these." Fine, no problem. You want to watch more than one, go ahead. You've got retirement questions. You have the same questions other retirees have. Go to askwealthcare.com, and we've got some answers there for you, some very
Sure.
convenient answers. And as always, if you want to have that 20-minute discovery call, just give us a call, 888-888-5601, or call with your questions. We look forward to talking to you. But, we love our loyal listeners. the number of people we meet with and are like, hey, my favorite thing we hear it all the time. Well, I've been listening to you for 3 years or 5 years or 7 years. And I figured it was time. So if that time is now, give us a call or hit us up on the website, WealthKare or askwealthcare.com.
All right. Yeah, I really encourage our listeners out there to do that. Thank you so much, Bruce. And listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Unlock Your Retirement with our host, the one and only Bruce Smith.